Good evening, everyone. What's up? Welcome back. And here we are again, summarizing Course 2 Real Estate Salesperson Program, but this time Module 12. This course is so long, it's literally like taking up so much time for me, and I am falling behind, but I'm gonna pick up my slack. So let's get right into it. Module 12 basically talks about listing and marketing properties. Says it in the title. Alright, lesson 1. We're gonna skip right to the end because that's where the good stuff is. Okay, information required to list. To list a property, you will need the following information. You need the property checklist information, you need the data sheet information, you need the documented agreements with the seller, remuneration agreements, and seller disclosure statements, or SPIS. So basically what property checklist is, identify material facts and help ensure that all necessary information is gathered. It's an effective way to reduce the risk of missing something while obtaining the listing. Information can be found in property checklist include verification of ownership, age of appliances, and annual taxes, among others. Data sheet is a data collection form that is used to document information about a property or create the listing. Documented agreements. These agreements identify specific terms and activities the seller terms or activities the seller is requiring of the brokerage and salesperson. Agreements can detail showing times, lockbox permission, and marketing specifics. Remuneration agreements. You will need to communicate the remuneration fees structure with the seller. Seller disclosure statements. Document any disclosures about a property and ensure any potential buyer is made aware. A seller is not obligated to complete the SPIS. A way to gather all the property information. You can get the deed. It helps verify the ownership. The municipality, it helps you verify the property tax information. Geo warehouse to gather various information on the property. MPAC to help assess the value of a property. Surveys to define exact boundaries of the property and show any improvements or easements on the property. The internet, or for any newsworthy information on the property. Review previous listings as a guideline only. Brokerage document retention. You will need to know the following about a representation agreement and document retention. Providing the seller with a copy of the representation agreement immediately upon signing. This is important because it ensures the terms agreed upon by the seller and the brokerage is understood by both parties. Your brokerage requirements for document retention to ensure that you do not place the brokerage in a position of non-compliance. Retaining any documents related to any aspect of a trade in shadow file. Retaining all original documents related to trading at your brokerage. The brokerage will maintain original business records for the purpose of trading in real estate in its head office in Ontario or otherwise specified by the registrar for a minimum of 6 years. That was lesson 1. Let's move on to lesson 2, listing a residential property. There's a lot of information here that we need to know. So understanding the housing market. To arrive at an appropriate listing price for a seller's property, you will have to be able to discuss market conditions and be fully informed of any sales or listings used in the comparative market analysis. So what is that? It is basically a form used by registrants to assist the seller in establishing the listing price. The right price. You will have to ensure that you are listing the property correctly from the start. Verify all information and do your due diligence in researching the property before preparing the seller representation agreement and data sheet. Your ability to advise on appropriate listing price can directly impact the final selling price of a property. Factors that affect the listing price basically is the location of the property, the layout and the condition of the property, updated features, competition between similar properties for sale. Yeah, that's right. Salesperson skills that you should have that can also impact the sellability of a listing. These skills include promotional strategy, typical marketing time, appropriate marketing time, accurate information, knowledge of the property, rapport with the seller, and intangible factors. Consequences of an overpriced listing. So having the property, so basically these are some of the consequences. Something like having the property not sell because the price is too high, having the seller reduce the price, which gives potential buyers the impression that there is a stigma or something wrong with the property, having the seller unhappy with the lack of results, especially if there are no offers for the seller to consider. Stigma, they talk about stigma. Let's see that again one more time so we know. In the context of real estate, a stigma is a non-physical, intangible attribute of a property that may elicit a psychological or emotional response on the part of a potential buyer. There may have been an event or circumstance that occurred in or near the property that does not affect the property's appearance or function, but might be considered by some as an emotionally disquieting. So yeah. Promoting the listing. Once the listing has been finalized with the seller, promoting is a first priority. These are some of the ways you can do it. Place the listing on a local listing service. This allows other salespersons to review the listing information online. They can then arrange to show the property to interested buyers. Expose the property in a wide number of ways. Your goal is to generate interested buyers and obtain an offer satisfactory to the seller within a reasonable time period. House tours for other salespersons are another effective way to promote a listing. So that's pretty cool. Advertising a property. You will need permission from the seller before advertising. So you should be able to create an effective marketing plan and know your various marketing options. Some of these marketing options are social media, real estate for sale signs, open house signs, flyers, online website and blogs, classified advertising, and targeted mailings. Advertising guidelines under the Competition Act. The Competition Act is a federal law governing competition law in Canada. Its purpose is to prohibit competitive conduct. Failure not to comply with the anti-competitive behavior could lead to criminal prosecution, competition tribunal proceedings, and civil court actions. Damn, holy. Okay. In regard to advertising, the principle of competition adopted from CREA specified that the real estate boards and associations must not prevent advertising by members or non-members unless the advertising is false or misleading, prohibited by law, restricted at the request of the vendor. Very important to know. Rules under CREA when advertising. So, as a salesperson who is a member of CREA, must comply with the advertising standards of trademark use of the association/board. Trademark rules are trademarks, MLS, multiple listing service, and associated logos are owned by CREA, and the trademarks realtors and the realtor logo are controlled by CREA and identify real estate professionals who are members of CREA. Only a salesperson who is a member of a CREA can refer themselves as a realtor. Cool. Sounds cool. So that was lesson 2. So lesson 3 talks about the salesperson's obligation in the listing process. Let's go over that. So, accurate representations and prevention of unethical practices. You are required to ensure that all statements regarding a trade or the services provided are accurate. Under the Code of Ethics, you cannot knowingly present inaccurate information, whether verbally, in an advertisement, or in any other form of making a representation regarding a property. In addition, the Code of Ethics states that as a salesperson, you are required to do your best to prevent error, misrepresentation, fraud, or any unethical practice in respect of a trade in real estate. Mere posting / limited service obligation. A limited service or a mere posting occurs when a seller does not require the full services of a brokerage. The brokerage agrees to provide some services but allows the seller to take responsibility for many of the services typically offered by the brokerage. The obligations of a brokerage under a mere posting include confirming information that appears on the listing, providing a description of the services being provided under the agreement and at what cost, providing a copy of the agreement to the seller immediately upon signing, providing conscious, I hope I said that right, conscious, and competent service for the activities the brokerage has agreed to perform, advising on matters after completing the required due diligence. Let's move on to services under a mere post excuse me, services under a mere posting / limited service agreement. Documenting the services to be provided in a mere posting or limited service agreement is of high importance due to the nature of the relationship. A la carte services. I don't know why I said that in a Hispanic accent, but I don't know what that means. I gotta research that. La carte services are a listing of services available for a seller to select from, which are provided by the brokerage or for a fee. Examples of a la carte services include creating feature sheets, conducting open houses, marketing and advertising, hiring a professional photographer, home stager, or conducting a visual tour, use of a lockbox, creating for sale and open house signage, providing market updates, showing the property, preparing paperwork on or negotiating an offer. So these are some of these services that you can provide. Some of the potential errors and omissions in the listing process. Key activities in the listing process that have a potential for risk are representation duties, disclosures and related procedures when representing sellers, misrepresentation of facts concerning listed properties, documentation errors in listings and any additional forms, verbal misunderstandings with seller. What are some of the leading practices for documenting listing information? Avoid making common errors when documenting information for the listing. Do not include any information that cannot be verified by source documentation. Complete further investigation if needed to ensure a data sheet is complete and accurate. Double check all information and use source documents. Ensure accuracy in measuring the buildings on a property. Do not rely on information from previous listings. Take notes when viewing the property. Discuss the seller's obligation to disclose all known latent facts. Note in the data sheet what is included or excluded, along with any with any items required to be disclosed. Verify information provided by the seller relating to the property condition. What are the leading practices when listing or advertising a property? Advertising leading practices. Listing a property, photographs are proprietary under the law. You need to take your own photographs or hire a photographer. Oh, I apologize for that. You need to hire a photographer to take photographs of a property for your listing. Listing photography leading practices. You will need to ask permission before taking photographs. The seller usually gives the brokerage authority to take photographs under the used for the listing. A form of written authority must be contained within a seller representation agreement. Print marketing strategies. Advertising is often associated with print media and web pages, but promotion extends to any method that informs and persuades. Brokerage policies on advertising. You will have to comply with the brokerage's advertising policies. Privacy and permissions from the seller. The Code of Ethics requires consent before specific information regarding a property or transaction is used in an advertisement. Wow, a lot of information in lesson 3. Hope you got all that. Let's move on to lesson 4. Comply with advertising requirements under Reba. So lesson 4, they talk about activities considered advertising under Reba. Activities considered advertising under Reba. So activities that are considered advertising under Reba include promotion of self, business services, or real estate trades regarding yourself in any medium, including but not limited to print, radio, television, electronic media, or publication on internet. Business cards, letterheads, or fax cover sheets that contain promotional statements may be considered advertising. Ensure advertising is not false or misleading. False advertising. The Code of Ethics prohibits you. Just know, it prohibits you from knowingly making an inaccurate representation in respect of the services you provide and in respect of a trade in real estate. A false statement is one that is factually incorrect. Comparative claims and awards. An advertising an advertisement that makes a comparative claim, or one that refers to the number of trading activities of a salesperson, or one that indicates an award or honor, will require information to disclose the basis of the claim. Promises and offers. All claims relating to remuneration rates or savings should be accompanied by a disclosure of the conditions and circumstances where the remuneration rate would not be charged. Disclaimers. Advertising with a claim or promise must include a disclosure statement. RICO requires disclaimers to be easy to read and clearly connected to the content referred. Reba requirements for marketing and advertisement. Identification of registrant. Your advertising must include the name in which you are registered with RICO. Identification of individuals. Brokers or salespersons identified by name must use the same name as registered with RICO. Identification of brokerage. Brokers and salesperson must identify their employing brokerage and use the same name as registered with RICO. Descriptions of registrant. Where an advertisement identifies a registrant, the specific description of the registrant must be noted. The description must be one of the allowable terms: salesperson, real estate salesperson, salesperson representative, real estate sales representative, broker, real estate broker, broker of record, real estate broker of record, brokerage, or real estate brokerage. Okay, so I guess you can't be like, oh, ABC, I am a real estate seller. Okay, I got that. Okay, sorry, moving on. Advertising. Specific rules and regulations exist to govern advertisements. To ensure compliance with Reba and RICO's advertising guidelines, brokers and salespersons should review an advertising checklist of requirements and prohibitions. So let's move on to the consequences. RICO will contact the registrant in writing if any non-compliance is discovered and request a prompt action to bring the advertisement in compliance. Failure to respond to the requirement may result in formal action being taken under Reba. Cool. I got that. Hope you got that too. Advertising a property. Any form of advertising for a property listed for sale or for a property that has been sold must comply with the requirements under the code. Permission to advertise a property for sale is typically in the seller representation agreement. You may also promote a property as sold. Any form of advertising that identifies a property as sold requires written consent. Depending on when the advertisement takes place and the contents of the advertisement, consent must be obtained from the seller, buyer, or both. Cool. Social media and advertising online. Every online advertisement must comply with the requirements for name identification and display. Reba compliance must be closely followed, as social media and online advertising can be more complicated than print. The 5 most common social media platforms that a salesperson will use are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. One more, I think it's not mentioned here, but TikTok. I've seen a lot of real estate guys just doing the TikTok dance. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty catchy, but you gotta do what you gotta do to sell houses, I guess. Website advertising must also comply with RICO's advertising guidelines, including consistent frames or headers on all website pages that include the 4 minimum requirements will help satisfy compliance requirements. Oh my god. Lesson 4 was, well, whatever. Okay, we get it. Advertising. Lesson 5, open house considerations and marketing materials. Let's move on to the summary. Open house considerations. So, open house benefits. An open house provides benefits to potential buyers, sellers, and the brokerage and the salesperson. Open house considerations. However, there is no guarantee that anyone will attend the open house or be interested in purchasing. There is a chance for crime and incidental damage from visitors attending the open house. Open houses from different property types. Holding an open house for a condominium may require permission from the board of directors or management company. The leading practice for condominium open house is for a minimum of 2 salespersons to be present, 1 to verify visitors before allowing them entry into the building, and another to show the unit. Oh, I did not know that. That's pretty cool. Hey, you learn something new every day, I guess. Preparing a seller for an open house. After the seller is prepared for the open house, the seller can assist with the marketing process by having their home ready for viewings, being flexible for open house appointments, and willing to vacate the premises for the duration of the open house. Preparing the property for an open house. A seller needs to ensure the home is clean, provide a place for boots, umbrellas, and coats, attend to any potential hazards or damage, and remove dangerous items and valuables. The seller should depersonalize the home and avoid cooking foods with strong odors. The seller should ensure the exterior makes a good first impression with clean surfaces, groomed lawns, and clear driveways depending on the season. Makes sense. That was lesson 5, pretty short and easy. Lesson 6 talks about open house interactions and leading practices. So, compliance obligations for a salesperson when advertising and interacting with attendees at an open house. As a salesperson, you are required to demonstrate compliant behaviors and when interacting with attendees at the open house, and respect any agreement an attendee may already have with another salesperson. Compliance obligations include protecting the client's personal information and acting in their best interests, complying with the CASL, protecting the attendee's personal information, ensuring that only salesperson or broker is holding the open house. An unregistered assistant can help, but they cannot do anything that may be regarded as trading in real estate. Advertising in compliance with the Real Estate and Business Brokers Act. Compliance with multiple sign. Oh, sorry. Did I read that multiple? Oh my god. I need some tea, man. Okay. Compliant with I was gonna say multiple again. Complying with municipal sign bylaws, providing full and accurate information to prospective buyers. Oh my god. I hope you're listening to this and you're not judging me based on my reading skills. I think I failed English. No, I don't think I did. I'm joking. Leading practices for a salesperson when holding an open house. The following are leading practices to consider when holding an open house. Provide guidance on what the seller can do to prepare for an open house, such as ensuring the property is clean, removing any obstacles to ensure attendee safety, removing dangerous items. Prepare the seller and the property. Advertise widely, for example, open house signs and flyers. Ensure valuables are safely stored. Arrive early and meet all visitors at the door. Ensure all doors and windows are secure when the open house is over. Follow up with the seller to discuss the results of the open house. Okay, sounds pretty simple. Let's move on to lesson 7. Lesson 7 is basically just the summary practices. We are going to skip that. Let's go on to the module summary, see what they say. Hopefully they covered everything we've already talked about. Okay, yeah, we've talked about this. We've talked about listing residential properties. Exactly. The salesperson obligation in the listing process. We've talked about that. Complying with advertising requirements. We've talked about that. Open house considerations. We've talked about that. Open house interactions. We've also talked about that. So that was the summary for module 12. I hope you learned something. Until next time, I will be doing module 13 soon. Until then, good night. Have a good whatever you guys